I work so hard. So why does this number still look like that?
If that's you, this channel is for you. This video is for you. If I told you there's a way to double your money, not by getting lucky, not by picking the right stock, not by some guru's course that costs $997, would you want to know? Because here's the thing. Most people think doubling your money is this magical, complicated thing. It's not. It's actually a system. And the system has two engines. Most people only run one engine their whole life. Some people run zero. That's why they're broke at 65 even after working for 40 years. Today, I'm going to show you both engines. I'm going to show you exactly how they work, with real numbers, real examples. No vague advice, no just invest more. Actual mechanics. I'm Tom. I was a regular guy with a regular paycheck and a very irregular relationship with money. I figured this stuff out the hard way so you don't have to. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe. This is the kind of stuff nobody taught us in school. Let's go. I want you to picture your money as water in a bathtub. Your paycheck is the faucet. Every 2 weeks, water comes in. Your bills and your spending are the drain. Rent, food, drinks, random Amazon stuff, subscriptions, all of that is water flowing out. Most people live like this for decades. Water in, water out. The level in the tub never really rises. If you want that bathtub to overflow one day, if you want enough money in there that you're not stressed every time a bill shows up, you have to do two things at the same time. You need more water coming in and staying, and you need less water leaking out through tiny holes you don't normally see. That's what I mean by two engines. Engine 1 grows your money. Engine 2 protects that growth by stopping the leaks. We'll start with Engine 1. There's one big problem with just saving money and letting it sit in cash. When your money just sits still, it goes backwards in real life. In 2022, US inflation once hit 8%. At that time, someone with $50,000 in a savings account earning 0.5% effectively lost about $3,750 in real purchasing power in just 12 months. They did nothing wrong. They were being safe, and they still lost money in real terms. In 2024, it was 2.9%. Right now, in early 2026, it's sitting at 2.4%. So even in a calm year, your money loses 2 to 3% of its buying power just by sitting in a typical bank account earning basically nothing. It's like an invisible tax that runs every single year, whether you notice it or not. So Engine 1 is about giving your money a job. For most people, the simplest job is a broad stock market index fund, something that tracks the S&P 500, which is a basket of around 500 of the biggest companies in America. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and hundreds more, all inside one product. You're not betting on one company, you're owning a tiny slice of hundreds at once. Over the last 30 years, the S&P 500 has returned an average of around 10.3% per year, including dividends. Over the last 100 years, it's around 10.5% per year. That doesn't mean 10% every single year. In 2022, it was down 18%, and in 2024, it was up 25%. But when you zoom out over decades, that's roughly where it lands. If you want your money grows faster, you must know a concept of number 72. Back in the 1970s, a finance professor was trying to figure out a quick way to estimate how long it takes for an investment to double. He figured out that if you take 72 and divide it by your annual return, you get a rough estimate of how many years it takes for your money to double. That's it. That's the whole thing. If your money earns 1% a year sitting in a bank savings account, 72 divided by 1 is 72. Roughly 72 years before your money doubles. You'll be long gone. If your money earns 10% a year in the market over the long run, 72 divided by 10 is about 7. Every 7 years, your money doubles. Same person, same job, same country. The only difference is where the money sits. Let's put real numbers on that. You put $5,000 into an index fund. Based on that 10% long-term historical average, after roughly 7 years, it's around $10,000. After about 14 years, $20,000. After around 21 years, $40,000. After 28 years, $80,000. You didn't start a business. You didn't flip houses. You just let Engine 1 do its thing. But here's where people really underestimate this. Actually, you can get higher value money as you start early. Engine 1 is less about being smart and more about starting early and staying consistent. But Engine 1 only works on money that actually reaches your investments. And for most people, that money disappears long before it ever gets there. That's where Engine 2 comes in. Think of Engine 2 as taking your foot off the brake. You can have a great investment plan, but if every dollar is gone by the end of the month, nothing compounds. The first leak I want to talk about is subscriptions. This one hurts. Recent surveys show the average American spends around $273 a month on subscriptions. Streaming services, apps, software, boxes, memberships. But when you ask them, they think they're only spending about $100 or so. Many people are paying for at least one subscription they don't even remember signing up for. That's money walking out of your bank account every month, and your brain doesn't even register it. So imagine you sit down with your bank statement or your card history. You scroll through the last couple of months and highlight every repeating charge. You cancel the stuff you don't use or don't really care about. Maybe you keep the one or two services you truly love. Let's say, just by doing that, you free up $100 a month. $100 a month doesn't sound like life-changing money. It feels like just $100. But if you take that $100 and feed it into Engine 1 instead, things change. If you invest $100 every month and it earns something like 9 to 10% a year over 30 years, that can grow into roughly $180,000 to $200,000 by the time you're older, based on typical compound growth math. So it's not just $100. It's a future six-figure amount versus a bunch of subscriptions you don't even think about. The second leak is lifestyle creep. This one is very sneaky because it doesn't feel like a problem while it's happening. You get a raise at work. Let's say you bring home $300 more per month after tax. You're happy. You deserve it. What happens next? Without planning, your life quietly gets more expensive. You say yes to eating out a bit more. You order Uber instead of walking. You choose the slightly nicer apartment when your lease ends. Maybe you upgrade your phone a little earlier. None of those choices feel crazy on their own, but together, that entire $300 disappears into your new normal, and you feel just as broke as before. This repeats over the years. That's why someone can go from $40,000 a year to $100,000 a year and still feel like they're just getting by. Engine 2 can turn that into fuel instead of a leak. You do it with a simple rule. Every time your income goes up, you tell yourself in advance, I will invest a piece of that raise automatically. For example, your take-home pay goes up by $300 a month. You go into your banking app or your broker and set an automatic transfer for $150 a month into your investment account. From now on, that $150 moves on payday before you ever see it in your spending account. You pretend your raise was only $150. Your lifestyle still gets a bit nicer. You feel the upgrade, but now, every raise you ever get also makes your investments grow faster. Engine 1 speeds up because Engine 2 is doing its job. The third leak is high-interest debt and expensive cars. This is where a lot of people's future wealth quietly dies. Credit cards with interest rates around 18 to 20% are brutal. You're trying to invest at maybe 9 or 10%, while a chunk of your money is being charged 20% the other way. That's like trying to fill the tub with a small faucet while someone has pulled the drain stopper out and is sucking water out with a pump. On top of that, many people are driving cars that are way more expensive than they realize. They see the monthly payment, like $400, and think, okay, that's my car cost. But the true cost of the car is the payment, plus insurance, plus gas, plus maintenance, plus repairs, plus parking. When you add everything, it's easy to be over $10,000 a year, depending on where you live and what you drive. If that same $10,000 a year could go into Engine 1, into investments that compound over 20 or 30 years, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential future wealth. I'm not saying never own a car. I'm saying be honest about what that specific car is really costing you, especially if you're also carrying expensive credit card debt on the side. Engine 2, in this case, is about the order you tackle things. You attack high-interest debt first because it is the biggest leak. Once a card is paid off, you don't let the monthly payment just disappear back into random spending. You keep sending that same amount, but now you send it to your investment account. You're already used to living without that money. Now it becomes your asset instead of the bank's. That's how you turn a past mistake into future freedom. Let's make this real with one example. You're 30, making $60,000 a year, and you feel like there's nothing left at the end of the month. You clean up your subscriptions, $80 freed up. You cut 2 takeout orders a week, another $120. You shop around on your phone bill and insurance, another $100. That's $300 a month, found without moving to a smaller place or changing your social life. You were already spending it, it was just leaking. Now you set up one automatic transfer. Every payday, that $300 moves straight into a broad index fund before you ever see it in your spending account. $300 a month at that 10% long-term historical average, over 35 years, that's $1.1 million. From fixing leaks. That's it. Both engines running together. Last thing, and this one actually hurts. The biggest mistake isn't picking the wrong stock, it's waiting. You're 25, you invest $10,000 today. At that 10% historical average, by 65 you have $452,000. You wait just 5 years and invest the same $10,000 at 30 instead. By 65, you have $281,000. Same money, same investment, 5 years later. That wait cost you $171,000. Waiting isn't free, it has a price tag. And every year you delay, that tag gets bigger. So here's all I'm asking you to do after this video. Open your banking app, find one subscription you forgot about, cancel it, and set up your first automatic transfer into an index fund. Even if it's $20, make it real, make it automatic, and let both engines start running. The math will do the rest. If this helped, hit subscribe. Every week on this channel, I take one thing about money that sounds complicated. The stuff nobody taught you in school, the stuff financial advisors won't explain for free, and I break it down so it actually makes sense for a normal person with a normal life. Next week, we're talking about something that quietly makes most working people poorer every single year, even when they're doing everything right. It's called the Cantillon effect, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm Tom. I'll see you in the next one.